my guest is Tricia Seaman.
And in the next breath, she said, I have something that I need to ask you. When I die, will you and your husband raise my son?
Share the gospel clear and strong. Stand for, claim your heritage of truth.
Welcome to Heritage of Truth. Today, my guest is Tricia Seaman. Welcome, Tricia.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
It's so good to have you. Now, Tricia is the author of the book, God Gave Me You, a true story of love, loss, and a heaven-sent miracle. Do you want to show the book? Because they'll be able to see it better on your end.
Sure, absolutely. So here is a picture of the book jacket.
Okay.
Okay.
All right. Now, why don't you tell us a little bit about why and how this book came to be?
Oh my. Do you want me to share a little bit of the story behind?
Sure.
Okay. So I've been a nurse for a little over 20 years.
Mm-hmm.
And in the last couple years, I work in the oncology area. I work in a central Pennsylvania hospital. And I really love oncology nursing.
Mm-hmm.
I think it really is one of those things where you kind of get to minister and meet people at sometimes their most difficult moments. And so in March of 2014, I was just doing my job. I was there for a regular shift, and I had the opportunity to take care of a young woman named Tricia Summers. Now, Tricia had been diagnosed in October of 2013 with a rare form of liver cancer. And at that time, when she was diagnosed, they felt like it was very isolated to her liver. They didn't feel as though it was fast growing or moving anywhere else. Mm-hmm. And they were optimistic, and hopeful for a good outcome. As the months progressed, her pain increased in her entire abdomen area. She told me many times it was so became so severe that she was unable to continue at her job. It was very difficult for her to take care of her young son, who was 8 years old at the time. So she came back into the hospital, which is where we met, and I was recovering her. Actually, she had gone for an exploratory surgery that particular day. So as I entered the room, I greeted her and I said, my name is Tricia, and it's going to be very easy to remember your name because we share the same name, same spelling, and same initials. Her name was Tricia Summers, and my name is Tricia Seaman. So that was kind of how we started our conversation, so to speak. And we began talking, and as she was waking up from the anesthesia, she started to share a little bit about her life, about her history, family, her parents, who she was very close to both of them, and they had passed away several years before, both from cancer, different types of cancer than what Trish had, and also that she had a brother and several close friends that lived in the Baltimore, Maryland area. So we just kind of talked about her life and her journey and what, her illness, obviously how this was impacting her life. And of course, we talked about her little boy.
Yeah.
So as we begin to chat, nothing really out of the ordinary, but I definitely felt a connection to her. My heart went out to her, I think first and foremost because she was a mom, and she was a mother who loved her child very, very much. And
you at the time had 4 children?
4 children.
4.
Yes. I have 3 girls and 1 boy, Anna, Jenna, Emma, and then Noah. And I'm married. My husband Daniel and we live in central Pennsylvania area. And now she didn't really ask me any questions about my family situation. She, I think, did ask me, are you married? Do you have children? But that's really about as far as it went. And certainly in my professional job, it's not my place to talk a lot about my own family. So, I did answer her question, but briefly. So that was pretty much how we met. So from that point forward, she was in the hospital a total of 3 weeks, and they were working very diligently to try to get her symptoms under control, all the while waiting for the biopsy results to come back.
Wow.
Yes, it took a
that
very
long.
Yes, it did. And as I said before, her cancer was very rare, and they did a lot of testing on different, tissues and things, that samples that they had taken that day of the surgery. On the day that she was to be released, I knocked on her door like I did many days that I happened to be working. I would walk in just to, say hello, see how she was. And on that particular day, the room was very dark, or it felt dark. She looked very, very sad. She was sitting there talking with a social worker about treatment options and transportation and all kinds of things. I knew immediately some news must have come back, and it didn't look like good news.
Right.
But in my, I came in and I said, "Oh, I'm sorry, you're with somebody. If you would, I can come back later. I just wanted to say goodbye." And she insisted that I stay. And she stood from her chair, walked towards me, and said, "The biopsies came back, and I have cancer, and it's terminal. And the doctors say that, I have a year at best to live." That's very, very difficult information for anyone to receive. But in the midst of that moment, she was already thinking about her little boy. And in the next breath, she said, "I have something that I need to ask you. When I die, will you and your husband raise my son?"
But that was a shocker.
It was a tremendous shock. Absolutely. I certainly wasn't expecting that day.
No.
I didn't know what to say. I immediately, I just wanted to comfort her. I just wanted to I gave her a hug and just put my arms around her and said, I want to pray for you. I will keep praying for you. And in regards to your request, I really want you to take some time with it. I want you to, I just wanted her not to make a quick decision on something so big.
Yeah.
But what she didn't know at the time was that my husband and I had gone through a foster to adoptive process with a Christian agency, and we became approved foster parents in the state of Pennsylvania in the month of October 2013, which was the same month that she was diagnosed with her cancer, which to me, I call that, like another God moment. So, but Trish was not aware of that information at the time that she asked.
Yeah.
So she went home, and I went back to work, or I tried to, and I tried to get through the rest of my day. And then, of course, as soon as I got off work, I spoke with my husband immediately. Before I even left the parking lot, I called him and said, "You're really not going to believe the day that I had." Many people have asked me, I can't even imagine what that phone call must have been like. I said, yes. In hindsight, I wish I would have recorded it, because I truly didn't quite know how to explain the craziness of that day to him. But as I got home that evening, we had an opportunity to sit and talk and pray. And he said, he's a very wise man. He said, I think that at this moment, we just need to pray for her. We need to just reach out to her and help her whatever way we can. And in our minds, it really wasn't an issue of whether or not we would become the parents of Wesley at that point. It was that we just wanted to minister to her. We wanted to, obviously, from the times that I had to talk to her, I knew that she didn't have a lot.
And she was a single mom.
She was a single parent.
Yes.
And she wasn't able to work. So her financial situation was not very good.
Mm-hmm.
We just wanted to make sure that she had food and was able to get her medications, get to her appointments.
Yeah.
That was really kind of where, our heart went first.
One of the things that really impressed me in your book was your husband's wisdom.
Yes.
What a man. I mean, he just some of the responses that he gave to you. I can't remember the exact ones right now, but as you were a bit confused and even at times upset about things, and he seems like such a calming influence and such a godly man that he just was hearing from God and then responding to you in that way. And I hope you realize what a wonderful man you have there.
Believe me, I do. We
Yeah.
are incredibly blessed.
Yes.
And we, my writer, Diane Nichols, and I, we joked the whole time as we were writing many beautiful moments of my husband, Daniel. And she was jokingly saying, every woman in America that reads this is going to hold their husband to a whole completely new level. Daniel is raising the bar, and he's my balancer. I am the type of person that tends to, I worry, I fret, I like to talk about something that's weighing on my mind, and I'll talk about it again. And he is just so incredibly patient, and he has a great amount of wisdom, and his thoughts immediately were to reach out, and we wait upon the Lord, and he was going to make this just exactly what he wanted it to be, whether we were meant to take care of Wesley or not. He just wanted to be obedient. So
now, I don't want to give away the whole story, but eventually you and Tricia became very close friends, didn't you?
We did. Like you said, there's a whole lot. It's kind of like a peanut butter and jelly sandwich. We have a whole lot in the middle, a lot of great information in there, and beautiful moments, sad moments,
kind of crazy moments.
Crazy moments that you'll just absolutely laugh. And I've had so many. The book has only been out, depending on when this story airs, it came out May 3rd, 2016. And just in the short time that it's been out, I've had so many folks reach out and just want to talk about some of the crazy moments, and how they can identify with certain things. And but eventually, like I said, we became very close friends. We would call her, text her, communicate with her in some regard every day. And we lived about 45 minutes away from her, so it wasn't like we could just make a quick trip to her apartment and see her. But that also brings in another beautiful part of the story. Our friend Robin, who became mother to the furry Molly, which was Trish and Wesley's dog. They had a very large dog, a Bernese mountain dog. Molly resembles a small bear in my mind's eye. I don't know if you looked at some of the photographs
I did.
In the book, but Molly is a beautiful dog. And obviously a very ill woman could not manage a dog of that size to walk the dog, to take care of Molly. And, it's just another way that God is so amazing in his provision. Robin is also a Christian. She and I connected then at work because I needed a way to contact Trish. And I knew from our conversations in the hospital that Trish had met Robin on a previous admission, and Robin incidentally had just lost a dog. Robin's precious dog passed away, and so she had room in her heart, in her home, to help Molly. So God takes care of the really big things, and also the small details, the
That's right.
smaller details. So Molly went with Robin, and we were able to connect with Trish that way. And to this day, we are still very close with Robin and Molly. I'm happy to report that Molly is doing fabulous. We always say Molly's living the dream.
Mm-hmm.
She is just, Robin takes beautiful care of her.
Mm-hmm. So why did you title the book God Gave Me You?
God Gave Me You. We went back and forth on a lot of different titles, but I think that just kind of sums up the whole journey.
So how did the journey end? Because we haven't talked about that yet.
Okay, like I said, we talked about the middle portion.
Mm-hmm.
Trish eventually came home to live with us when her condition began to deteriorate to the point that she would have had to spend the last months of her life in some type of a facility, whether it be a nursing home or a rehab. She was not able to live on her own. And we had Wesley at the time. On her last hospitalization, she asked us to please bring him home.
Mm-hmm.
So we did. She joined him about a week later, and we all stayed here together. We lived in our home together for 5 months.
5 months.
As a big, happy family. And those were some more definite adjustments and struggles. And it wasn't always easy. But in the words of my husband, he felt very much as though we could not take Wesley and raise him as our own, and explain to him that we just could not help his mom.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't think I could have lived with that fact, knowing that the last bit of time that they had together, they needed to spend apart.
That would be awful, yeah.
Yeah, so she was here, he was here, and we had a family, and we still do. Trish accepted the Lord as her Savior, and I'm happy to report since the printing of the book, Wesley has also accepted Jesus as his Savior. So those were our two greatest victories in this whole thing. We have 2 more members of the family of God. Trish went home to be with the Lord December 7th, 2014. And I'm happy to report that although it was a very sad time, I think Wesley sums it up best as he says, it's a happy thing and a sad thing all in the same.
Yeah, that's good.
It's very sad that Mommy had to get cancer and that she went away to heaven, but in a way it's happy because I would have never met my family if that wouldn't have happened. And so I thought that was really special that he's able to articulate that. It's a little, I'm sure, very conflicting for him because obviously he would give anything to have his mom, here and healthy. But he has in his very short walk with the Lord, I think God has just been able to really just minister to his heart in knowing that that wasn't my plan, but I made a way. I made a way for you. And it's just a constant teaching moment that God loves his children so much that he makes a way. When there seems to be no way, he makes a way.
That's right. Well, why don't you talk a little bit about God's heart for adoption?
God's heart for adoption. I believe that, adoption isn't for everyone. A lot of people who have, spoken with us since this whole journey has unfolded for the world often say, I could never do that. I could never, take a child in like that. And, my answer to them is, and that's okay. It's a really great thing that God doesn't call us all to the same ministry. But if you do think that your heart and your home is open for that, I believe it's a very biblical thing. think that God calls us to reach out to others.
Mm-hmm.
And he details that out quite nicely, especially, the widows and the orphans.
Yes.
And he calls us to go into all the world preaching the gospel.
Mm-hmm.
And he gave his only begotten Son. Whosoever would believe in him should not perish. I mean, it's the whole way through Scripture.
Mm-hmm.
He wants us to reach out to one another, to love one another.
Right.
Jesus was quite fond of the little children.
That's right.
He loved the little children.
And when we become part of the family of God, we are grafted in. We are adopted into God's family. So
That's right. That's
yeah.
right.
Well,
So it's really an extension of him, I believe. That's the way I look at it. It's an extension of the hands and the feet of Jesus.
That's a good point.
Yeah.
Now, for the people who are not called to actually adopt, there were a lot of people in your community, your church community, who were hands and feet of Jesus too in all of this. So why don't you tell about that?
Oh my. I think that is another one of my favorite parts of the book and in the story, because it shows the reader how the entire community embraced our family. Like you said, Jeanne, not everyone is called to adopt, but there were a whole lot of people praying. There were a lot of people bringing meals, sending cards, just doing anything they could to provide things for the family that would just help make it a little bit easier. They offered transportation for her to appointments, just company for her. She really minded being here, especially when I was at work. So we had lots of ladies from the church that just would come and sit with her, especially, early on when she was still physically very, very weak and needed somebody to fix her lunch and bring her medication. And when I couldn't be here, there were hands and feet of Jesus here to help her. And I really just think that's a beautiful extension of what God's love is. It was just such an amazing blessing. Church Summers didn't just impact our family. She impacted a whole community. And it wasn't just our church. It was other church families that came together and did things for our family. Our local ice cream shop, that knew how much she loved their chocolate peanut butter milkshakes, doing special and sweet things for her. She was seeing God's love in so many different ways. So don't be discouraged. For anybody who's watching and thinks, I can't do those kind of things. You can. There's something that every single person can do.
Yeah, just picking up one of those peanut butter milkshakes and bringing it over.
Absolutely. A card, a phone call.
Yeah.
Just a smile. Just a kind gesture.
Now, one of the things that I was thinking about, I don't know if this has been an issue with y'all, but I know that a lot of adoptive parents never get a break.
Yeah.
And one of the things that people can do for them is to offer to take the kids so that the parents can have some time.
Absolutely. I'm sad to say that that's not something that my husband and I have ever been extremely good at, is taking a break and taking some time for ourselves. Even though we do have family available, to help with the children. I think that would be the number one thing I would recommend to young couples out there. Get in that habit. Take that date night. Or even if it's after you put the kids to bed, when our older children who are now teenagers were young, we would put everybody to bed. We would split a can of soda and call out for Chinese food and set out the nice plates. And we had a beautiful meal, just the two of us. And, the most important thing is we weren't even going anywhere, but it was time together.
Right.
It was quiet time together. And that's important.
That's really important. But it's also important for the family of God to realize that sometimes these parents have no resources, no family in town and all that. And to maybe ask, is there a need here? Is there something I can do? to help you, because after the adoption happens, they're all gung-ho and help you get it done. Exactly. But then are you there afterwards for them? I think it's so important.
It's just a wonderful thing to place a phone call or, email in today's age and say, hey, how are you guys doing? Is there anything we can do for you? Right. Can I pick up a load of laundry? Mm. We've even had folks, in our church that have helped different families through the years. Just say, hey, let me do some laundry for you. Let me, run some errands for you. Anything like that is such a help.
Oh, it's a huge help. And, I had a sister who died of cancer, and it was a very slow death. And she had friends who were there that were picking up the kids, taking them places. They were there with her so that she didn't have to spend a lot of time alone. Plus, right. There were family members doing it. And it's amazing how much of a comfort that can be.
Very much
when
so.
you get that kind of help. But then there's also a time when you have to realize the family needs time alone.
Absolutely.
So did you ever run into that where you needed that time?
Yeah, we definitely did. Sometimes it got a little bit overwhelming. And of course, then, you factor in a lot of times when you're caring for a very ill family member, you have hospice in and out. You have the nurses and the social workers and the chaplains, and it becomes, you feel like your front door is kind of a revolving door, and that becomes a little overwhelming at times.
Yes.
And it's all intended to help, and it does. But yeah, it's just being real mindful to just take those quiet moments when you can and just rest.
Right.
Allow yourself.
Well, there are an awful lot of people suffering from cancer. It seems to be increasing.
Yes.
And as an oncology nurse, do you have any tips for people as we're, dealing with friends and family who might be getting that kind of a diagnosis at this time?
Sure. Well, I think the biggest thing is just to be present. Whether that is, I think a lot of times, people want to say something. They want to give some kind of word that's going to make that person or that family member feel better. There really is not a lot that you can say. Mm-hmm. It's devastating. Each person's journey is different. You can't really identify with anyone. Specifically, even if you yourself have dealt with cancer, everybody's journey is very, very different. So I really think that the biggest thing is just to be there, just be present, and just offer that support. Just say, hey, you know what? I love you. I'm here for you. What can I do? What can I do to best help you at this time?
Yeah, that's good advice. So what do you hope people will get out of your book?
I hope people get encouragement. I hope that people can, read this book, and if there is any doubt in your mind that there is a God out there who loves us, I hope that after you finish that book, you can say beyond a shadow of a doubt, there is a God in heaven, and he loves his children dearly, and he still does miracles even today. Because I consider what happened to Trish, what happened to us, what happened to Wesley, it was a miracle. It was God's miracle, and we give him all the credit for that. So I hope encouragement and just assurance, and that, if there's somebody that doesn't know the Lord as their Savior, that they'll say, you know what, I want to serve him too.
Mm-hmm. And tell us, how is Wesley doing now? He's with y'all.
He is. He is. He's doing very, very well. Mm-hmm. He, of course, grief is a journey. It's a process. Mm-hmm. And there are some times that we all have a tough time. Mm-hmm. That, there are still moments, even though we are, a year and a half now past her her home going to heaven, there are many moments that we are all still very sad. But the beautiful thing is that he has us. He has a family. He's doing very well. He's very active. He's healthy. He's just a delight.
And he has a brother to play with.
Absolutely. He has a brother.
That's good.
And
And older sisters to dote over him.
That's right. And they certainly do plenty of that.
Right. Okay, well, if our viewers want to know more about you or your book, where can they go online?
You can go to www.triciaseaman.com, and that is my website that my daughter Anna helped set up, and there's all kinds of information on there. It tells a little bit more about us, our journey, our family, talks about Trish and her past and journey. It also gives a way to contact us through email. Also for any kind of speaking engagements or a request to come speak at a church or an event. And it also includes a prayer wall on there, which I was excited to add that feature to my website. So if you have a prayer request and you just want us to be praying for you, you just give us a name. You don't even have to go into the situation, just a first name or God knows. We don't need to know all the details. He knows. Right. And I'll just put it up there in a private way that would just be a name, and that way everybody who looks at it, can just say, hey, Lord, today I pray for, whatever's on there. And so.
Okay. Well, thank you so much, Tricia, for being our guest today. We really appreciate it.
Welcome. I enjoyed talking with you. Thank you so much. God bless.
Share